Welcome to the first part of our RepRap Prusa Mendel i2 build by Additiveware. We've gone ahead and laid out the initial build you're going to need to do. We did it ourselves ahead of time just to cut out some tediousness. But basically we're going to take our what size are these rods completely?
Yeah, 340.
Just leave a recording. I'll cut it out.
There are 340, I think.
It's the 6 of them. The 365.
365.
Damn. Okay. Okay. Alright, welcome to the first part of the RepRap Prusa Mendel i2 instructional guide by Additiveware. We've gone ahead and already assembled our two triangles just because they're fairly simple and straightforward, using our 6 365mm threaded rods, our 4 vertices with feet, and then our 2 vertices without feet, and then an assortment of nuts and bolts and washers. So basically, we are going to stick them all in here. We went ahead and did like we did with any other plastic part and make sure that there's a washer and nut on contact with every point of the plastic. On the bottom half between the 2 feet, we included a bar clamp, also with a nut and washer on either side of it. And the most important thing about this assembly is that you have to make sure all the distances here, and then here are the exact same length, and we shoot for about 290mm. So whether or not your rods will be flush at the top or sticking out a little, it's pretty irrelevant as long as the insides are the same measurement. And we did that both sides equal, completely exact same build. So from there we're going to move on into the front end of the RepRap. And for that, we're going to need our 220mm rod. I'm sorry, 275. And we're going to need all of the nuts and bolts and plastic parts you see here, and one 608ZZ bearing. They're going to go on in this order, with the bearing being the middle point. So everything on this side is going to go on from this side of the rod and the bearing, and then everything on this side will go on this side of the bearing. So we're going to go ahead and put that on for you. The measurements will have to be adjusted afterwards. They are very, very important for the overall structure of the RepRap. But for now, we're going to go ahead and put them on and get them put on the 2 triangle frames so we can measure the whole thing out and make sure it's even. But just go ahead and thread all these on. Okay, so we've finished the front end of the RepRap. We have, in this order, washer, nut, nut, washer, bar clamp, washer, nut, nut, fender washer, washer, bearing, washer, fender washer, Y motor mount, washer, nut, nut, washer, bar clamp, washer, nut, nut, washer. It's quite a mouthful, but it's got to be done. The bottom part is going to be a lot easier to do. We're just going to go ahead and slide the same length rod through the bottom part. Like I said, we'll worry about the distances later. As long as these 2 right now are lined up, it's fine. We will go ahead and put in our washer and nut on the bottom, just to get it ready to put it in the frame. Alright, and then the last one that's going to go on the inside of the vertice. Okay, so it's about level. Definitely needs tightened. So we'll go ahead and tighten the middle right now just to hold the 2 together while we put it in the vertices. That looks about right. Alright, just hand tighten it for now. So, we have our front end with the Y motor mount and the bearing attached. Now that bearing, as I'm sure you might have guessed, is where your belt is going to go after the motor has been attached. So, we will take one side of our triangle and just go ahead and mount this in the two slots on the side, like such. And you can do that with the opposite side as well. We will tighten the frame later and make sure everything's square after it's measured. But keep the distance a little bit apart now so we can go ahead and put the other side on after we are finished assembling it. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get the pieces together for the back end. Alright, so we have attached the front end of our RepRap. We've measured out the distances a little bit, but we'll perfect them after we get the back end attached. Luckily the back end is a lot simpler. All we're going to do is put in this order again with the bearing being in the middle. Except this time we only have the two bar clamps, no Y motor mount to get in the way. But so once again, we are going to slide on from this side, bearing, washer, fender washer, washer, fender washer on that side, and then go into the nuts and bolts to tighten them up. So let's go ahead and screw these in. Okay, so we finished the back end tightening. Once again, we'll go over the order of hardware on the rod. Starting from this side, we have washer, nut, nut, washer, bar clip, washer, nut, nut, fender washer, washer, bearing, washer, fender washer, nut, nut, washer, bar clamp, washer, nut, nut, washer. And then we're going to have the other, nut and washer once we put it in the vertice. But that is this side. Again, we'll worry about the alignment afterwards. This is the top part. The bottom one, you just have your nut and washer on either side. There's nothing, no plastic parts, nothing special that goes on this one. So we're going to set those aside for just a second and look at the frame. Now, we've already got our front end in place here. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the bearing is in the very, very center of the rod. And then we need to make sure that these two bar clamps are equal distance from the vertices. Now we're going to do that because despite how crooked your frame may be, the vertices will be stable. So the distance between these two will be fair, and it should be the same on the opposite side to ensure that the smooth rods that we're going to fit in are perfectly aligned. But first, make sure you have the bearing in the middle, and then you can choose whatever point you want for the alignment. We're going to use the vertices because, as I said, they're stable. So we know on this side we're looking at about 137. And then on this side, it is going to be quite a bit less, 125. So we're going to need to adjust that. And then for these, we're going to have 75.8. And on this side, we're going to have 75.8. So okay, we're good on the bar clamps. We're just going to have to adjust that bearing in the middle a bit, but first we're going to go ahead and put on the back end. That way we can align both of the bearings together. So we'll go ahead and take our completed top part and slide it in on this side and fit it on that side. And we're going to need our bearings and washers to go on the closing ends. Okay, and then same for this side and the back. Nope, don't close them off too far yet because we're still going to have to get the bottom line there and fact, I'm going to go ahead and take off that one. So next we're going to slide in the bottom. Both at the same time, there we go. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and close those off. Measure out our distances on these two back ones to make sure they are completely lined up with the two bar clamps in the front. And then we're going to need to make sure that our bearings are aligned, but also both completely in the middle, just because they are going to be what pulls on the bed, and we want the bed to be pulled from the middle to adjust for any pull on either side. So we're going to go ahead and tighten all that up, make sure that, like I said, everything's parallel, and also make sure that our frame has not come loose at all. And then we're going to go ahead and put the top part of it on and attach two of our motors already. So we'll go ahead and do that and be right back. Okay, our frame is tightened. It is evened out on all sides here. Again, we're going to get these perfect when we're ready to put the smooth rods on, but we know that our bearings are completely centered, and that is what is very important right now. So we're going to go ahead now and put the tops on up here. We are going to need our 420 millimeter threaded rods, two of them, not the third one, we'll save that for later. And we're going to need our Z motor mounts left and right. They look like this, except they're mirror images. And two NEMA 17 stepper motors. And we're going to go ahead and set this aside for now while we attach our motors to the mounts. So we've already done one here. Basically the motor just goes face down inside the square for it. And you're going to use your M3 10 millimeters to tighten the motor inside. And we are going to do that very quickly. Now we probably don't have to do all four. I know for many of the other builds you use 3, but we're going to go ahead and do all 4 just to be extra safe. Last one. And as far as leveling on this end, there's not a lot of measuring to be done. It's more just making sure that the motor mounts are mounted properly and that they can be, the threaded or the smooth rods that are going to extend down and guide the Z-axis are allowed to fit. So we're going to use our Allen key real fast just to tighten these off and continue with the threaded rods. Right, now we're going to get ready to put our top on here, and we are not going to need to measure much. Just a matter of getting the rods and motors mounted so they're lined up. We have our right one here, and we have our threaded rod with a nut already on it, a little bit of the way up, maybe a fifth of the way. So we're going to go ahead and slide the motor mount on the rod and then thread it all the way through, except we're going to have to stop here, and it's tedious, but we need to put a washer all the way down and followed by a another one on this side, so it will match up against. I'll go ahead and thread it down because we know we're going to have to push it through farther. Push these through here. Now we're going to do just this one's just hanging here. Well, it'll get put back on when we slide in our other side. We're going to go ahead and close off this end over here so we don't pull it all the way through. Now we're going to slide this one on. Make sure they're facing the right way. Now we have to push this back a little bit. No, actually push it out more. It is a process. There we are. Now we've got enough room on both sides. And we're going to finish that off with one more nut and bolt. We're going to go ahead and get these facing upright as they're supposed to be, put in the other side, and we'll rejoin you.